Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight's program. We'd like to start tonight's program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. And for that, I'd like to invite Brother Bakr to recite the Holy Quran. So please welcome him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajim. Thank you, Brother Bakr, for that beautiful recitation of the Holy Quran. May Allah reward you for your efforts. For everyone that is attending today's program, if you did not know, this is the 5th series and sadly the last of this series for as of right now for the program with Sheikh Ahmed Modarres on youth marriage and family relationships. It's a beautiful series. And before I like to invite Maulana, please remember some quick notes about the program. We will be having our Q&A after the seminar. So if you have any questions at all regarding what's being taught in the seminar, or any questions or generalizing questions at all, please post them in the YouTube link where you're streaming this video in the comments section. And so you can have those queued up and ready, and so I'll be able to see them and then read them to Maulana, and then we can have a good Q&A session. If there is a good amount of questions, we might extend it a little bit longer if works with Maulana's schedule. We might push it to, instead of 10 to 15, maybe do a little bit longer. So please, if you have any questions, I'll put it in the YouTube link in the comments section where you're streaming this video. Also, a quick side note, if this is the first time you're attending tonight's program or this seminar program is interactive with everyone that is viewing. So if everyone wants to engage with Maulana's seminar, please go to www.menti.com and Maulana will give you a code, and so you put in that code on that website, menti.com, MENTI. I'll also put it in the YouTube link in the comment sections if anyone forgets, with the code. And so you'll be able to engage with Maulana's lecture and seminar. So if there's any questions that arise or any points where Maulana is asking for some participation, you can engage with Maulana, and it will make it more interactive and more engaging. Without further ado, I'd like to invite our esteemed beloved scholar and my favorite, Sheikh Ahmed Modarres, for this beautiful, beautiful seminar, our last lecture, sadly. Please welcome him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Special salam to Brother Muhammad. As always, his energy and enthusiasm is helping me to also be inspired to proceed with the workshop and seminar. So it was an honor to be with my dear brothers and sisters at Moment Center for the last 4 sessions. This is the final one. But inshallah, there's always to learn. We are seekers, students of knowledge, lifelong learners. As Prophet said, seek knowledge min al-mahdi ila al-lahad, from the bassinet to grave. So inshallah will be just one additional step in order to acquire knowledge that we can implement, we can practice, because a knowledge that we don't act upon it, a knowledge that we don't pragmatically, practically benefit from it, it will be a burden, is that it will be more of an accountability that we know or we knew what was right and we didn't do anything about it, God forbid. So inshallah, we ask Allah, as we are approaching month of Ramadan and these final days of month of Sha'ban, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq of iman and amal al-salih together, to have faith as well as action, as well as taking actions and righteous and good actions in every day of our lives, including inshallah in Ramadan, to maximize our benefit from the opportunity that Allah provided for all of us, a special time, a sacred time, a great opportunity for acquiring forgiveness and blessing in month of Ramadan, inshallah. Allah make this Ramadan to be a Ramadan of salamat, health, and well-being for all of the mu'mineen. And I've heard just from Brother Muhammad and other volunteers that inshallah you're planning to have in-person majalis outdoor. So inshallah Allah protect you from any bala, any illness, and bless you with the khair and barakat of dunya and akhirah, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل فرجه.
صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأرضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِندَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُل لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُل لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.
On our final topic, I decided to, if you remember, we talked about chronological order of talking to our young adults about marriage, preparing them in advance about the concept of family, teaching them some of the responsibilities that they have to acquire through experience, some skills that they need prior to marriage. And then we talked about spouse selection, the criteria that we have to keep in mind. We talked about successful marriage and some of the skills and tips that basically we need as a person who's married or someone who's on the brink of getting married to keep in mind that they will help us to avoid certain conflicts, possible disagreements, as well as how to manage. So basically, ultimately, it was about conflict management. It was a conflict resolution. Some of those we also discussed in the previous sessions. So what I want to talk about this week is specifically, we also kind of touched upon children and how, as a married person, ahead of time, even before having a child, it's important to know what it means to be a parent. And also, inshallah, this will be, because I assume the audience mostly are people who are, as I said, they are planning to get married, they are married, they're planning to have children, or they have children. So my audience will not be children. So I'm not going to talk a lot about honoring your parents or the significance of that, because I think that requires, inshallah, as a parent yourself, you should know you must honor your own parents as well. So I'm not going to spend time on that topic. Maybe again, inshallah, if I'm working with the youth, specifically maybe youngsters, maybe I can talk more about parents' right and the ayah I recited from Surah Isra that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the importance of honoring your parents and not to disrespect them even in a very subtle verbal way to avoid somehow ignoring them or dismissing their call. If they ask you, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ, Quran says, don't dismiss your parents even with saying a simple respond as uff, which is kind of a verbal cue for frustration, that I'm frustrated with them asking me over and over or telling me over and over. So I'm not going, again, as I said, that's an important topic, but my focus will be from the other way around. As parents, it's important to keep in mind there's certain issues we face that we have to recognize. And then the second, so if I want to divide the topic tonight, there are three topics that I will discuss. The first one is there are some challenges that parents will face. So if you were a couple and you did not have children, after marriage, there are possibility that some issues will rise in your relationship. So it's good to know about them and be ready and prepared for that. So that's the first topic, talking about some of the issues that parents may have or couples may have after having their first child, after having children. Secondly, we will talk, inshallah, about how to avoid those issues that they are very common. What are the solution? And how to manage our time well as parents. That is something that it's very critical we will talk about. And the last part would be as parents, which is again is very, very important, is that we must take care of ourselves. So as parents, we have to spiritually take care of ourselves, physically take care of ourselves in order to be able to do our job right as parents, our responsibility right as parents. Because if I don't feel well, if I'm not healthy, if I'm spiritually not in a good shape, I will not be able to raise a good family who are in a good shape, or the chances are very low because usually our children aspire to be like their parents. So to set a good example, we need to, inshallah, take care of ourselves, and I will give you some tips on that as well. So these are the three topics. The issues that they may rise after having children, how to, number two is how to avoid them or how to navigate through those issues to minimize the damage or the harm that they could cause to our relationship, to our family. And the third would be how to take care of ourselves, how to make sure that having children is not going to cost our spiritual well-being as well as mental and physical well-being. So let's, inshallah, start with the first one. But before that, I'm going to, inshallah, quickly, if I can, share the screen, inshallah, quickly. So if you can please go to Slido, and this is the code. So I want to start with this one. So this is, I want you to think about, again, inshallah, hopefully you can use this platform, is to think about it. So again, we have in traditions of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam, the hadith says that the good question is half of the answer. Husnul su'al, nisful jawab. A right question, a good question is half of the answer. So this question, inshallah, will help us to think and to frame our thought in the right direction. So the code is 35, 36, 56, 63. And I want you to think about this. What are some of your challenges as a parent? So what do you think is something that you are having a difficult time to deal with? Again, that could be, my challenge is to communicate with my teenager son or daughter. My challenge is how to find time to have a quality time with my children. My challenge could be how to inspire my children to learn about religion rather than just pushing them and making a mandatory task, make it more of something that they are passionate about. So if you can address those. And then the second question would be, uh, how do you prioritize your responsibility? So as parents, you have a lot of things to do, right? From when it comes to food and meal preparation to taking at the during the time of Corona time with children spending time indoors and in quarantine and online classes, virtual classes, maybe your responsibility to help them in their homework or their school, your responsibility of having time for your spouse, for your wife and husband. So how do you prioritize your time and your responsibilities? What is the hierarchy that you follow, that this should be first, this should be second, and this is third? As I said, these answers are uh, anonymous. So that is something, again, you can feel free to share what you think. And we're not looking for a right or wrong answer. We want to see and kind of understand what are the approaches of our community when it comes to parenting styles, as well as their priorities as a parent. So if I want to make sure, okay, so for example, thank you for the first, some of the challenges I think as a parent uh, we face is that probably haram relationships that sometimes some of the youth will engage in this relationship, having boyfriend and girlfriend, which inshallah we can talk about it. But one of the reasons this happens is uh, when we talk about marriage, again, I'm not promoting or advocating for early marriages for people who are not ready for it. But for sure, with the amount of uh, excuses I see that marriages are postponed, that now people are getting married very late. Uh, the reality is that when you are asking your child to go and finish 4 year of undergrad and then 4 year of grad school, whatever is the major, and then expect them to just live on their own, do nothing haram, that is something that for sure is an unnecessary burden on them. And to know how to help my child to understand that you need a partner in life, which we call a spouse, marriage, and you have to be ready sooner or later to make that decision. This is sometimes goes to the cultural constraints that we are making. Uh, that okay, you cannot get married, you cannot have a boyfriend, girlfriend either. You just have to suffer in silence. That's all it is. That's not what the reality of our faith is about. That after a certain, yes, at a young age, we have to teach our children about how to exercise and practice modesty, and that happens when uh, we're looking at uh, amount of stimulus around them, that they are being always bombarded by visual stimulus that is kind of uh, it's built to somehow promote uh, desires and lust. And everywhere, and if you go to look at social media and all these stories, all these different platforms, again, it's rarely possible to look at these platforms and not accidentally, again, we're not talking about somebody who's following someone, no, even accidentally you end up seeing something that is haram for sure, that they are objectifying women, that they are promoting that kind of lustful interaction or desire. And then we expect that that's not going to influence not even single people, even married couples. It's going to influence for sure. We will come back to this. Thank you for posting. I see this. I'll leave this, inshallah, at the end to address. Thank you again. Please keep posting. These are important. These are important for me as a speaker to know what to address, because as I said, not everyone is going through the same challenge in their life as a parent. So it is good to know. So I see, alhamdulillah, there's some answers here. And on this one, how do you prioritize your responsibilities? Uh, I see there's one answer. So I will come back to this, but let's inshallah start on our topic. But very, very good input. Jazakallah khair for that. So going back to our topic that we kind of touched upon, it's important to know that once you become a parent, one of the issues that the parents face is how to delegate their time wisely, in a sense that after you become a parent, parenthood is not going to be a replacement for the relationship as a spouse. Parenthood and spousehood are not replacement of one another. Instead, is an additional role in your life. So once you become a parent, you have an additional hat to wear. That's being a parent. But you still the existing role, which was you were a wife or you were a husband, that is still continues to exist. So one of the issues that is very common after people having their child is they forget that. They become invested solely on their child, in a sense that they forget that they have a husband or wife. Yes, a human being, infant and child, needs a lot of attention. It needs a lot of hard work, a lot of nights to stay awake. I understand all those, but none of that is a enough excuse to say I'm not going to even acknowledge that I'm a wife or I'm a husband for a year or for 2 years. This is a challenge that we have to be aware of. Some marriages start to have problems after having a child. People are going to start losing their focus that, okay, I have to take care of a child, but it should not come to a sense that I forgot about my spouse. You show as much as love you want to your child. And I'm not saying that if you love your child so much, your spouse is going to be jealous of that, but for sure is going to affect them if they feel that they don't matter anymore. That's all matters to you. All it matters is your child. That's very rare to happen, but they unfortunately happen. I've had this conversation with couples that they said it, and we had, kind of sessions with them after having issues. And they openly say it that, after our first child, after having, our second child, I feel that I don't matter anymore. I feel that I don't exist to my husband, to my wife. So it's important to keep that in mind. That's one of the issues that it may rise, which is people say, oh, I only love now. I thought I cannot love anyone more than my spouse, but now that I have a child, I love them more. Love and to somehow quantify love is not necessary in relationship. One of the worst questions people used to ask was, who do you love more, your dad or mom, your father or your mother? One of the worst questions. Why we have to somehow choose or even quantify love, that this is more or less. So what about love is about your child? You could have the strongest love to your child, but the type of love to have your child is unique to that relationship between parent and child, and your love to your spouse is unique to that relationship. They have their own version. They have their own color. So we cannot confuse them with each other. And I've heard it, unfortunately, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard from couples who are on, almost they are on the brink of getting divorced. They're almost, doing the final steps to separate from one another. And I've heard this from most than 50% of them. They say that, yeah, it doesn't matter for me. I'm going to end this marriage. I have my children. My children are here for me. All I care is I'm living for my children. this is good to be a parent, that you make sacrifice for your child. That's all parenthood is about. That's why Allah gives such a special position for parents, because they make a lot of sacrifices, a lot of selfless decisions in their life. But to come to that point that you kind of throw someone under the bus, that, okay, because now I have a new person in my life that is my child, I'm not going to care anymore about my spouse. That is something dangerous. So that is one concern that I will, inshallah, say the solution to. The danger of people ignoring their spouse after having children, to become over-focused, over-invested in their children, and abandoning and neglecting their spouse. Not, again, you may say, we never had this, my parent never had this. Because you did not face it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This is one of the actual issues and conflicts that people are facing after having children. The second issue that it may rise after having children, and that could be right after having them, or it could be later on, years later, after, in the developmental age of children, is the fight over who knows better. That's another issue, especially when it comes to tarbiyah. When it comes to nurturing of your child, upbringing of children, that we see sometimes there is this struggle between couples, that mother says something and then father has a different opinion. And that's normal. We're human beings, even as couples that we know each other for a long time. We have our own unique, specific behaviors, maybe even reasoning that there is unique to us. And it's not a matter of right or wrong, right? There's Imam Ali alayhi salam's tradition, which Imam talks about who is wise, aqil, who is an intellectual. And Imam alayhi salam said, wise, the one with intellect, is not the one who recognize or differentiate between good and bad or right and wrong. That's not that difficult. But rather than that, rather wise and intellectual is someone who's capable of choosing between two good and choose the better good, the better. Wise and aqil is someone who's capable of knowing between two bad, which one is worst, and avoid it. That is difficult. That's when it becomes difficult, right? Because if it's right or wrong, everybody knows that right is right, wrong is wrong. Majority of time we know. Although for some people that could be even a challenge. But for many people, the challenge is your child can take a Quran class, can go to school and learn a new language, can read a book, can, I don't know, start learning how to code. These are all good things. These are all good things. But to choose which one is better between these good options, which one is the priority, that is what Imam Ali alayhi salam said is aql, reason and intellect about. And the more and more we acquire experience, the more we learn about that. So the second challenge we face is that it becomes, as parents, people start to struggle, who knows better? As a father, I know better. As a mother, I know better. I spend more time with my children. I read more book about childhood. I took Sheikh Modarres seminar about children. That becomes a struggle, which is the worst. Why? Because for the parenting and upbringing, truly nobody have all the answers. Nobody knows all the right things. We try to take the best course of action, but ultimately nobody can claim, I know for sure this is right. So that is a second challenge that I witnessed that in front of me, couples start undermining each other, that don't tell, our child, our son, our daughter to do this. It's not good for him. And that could be wife telling the husband or husband to wife. And that is a great concern. It's create not only problem, it will create create a fracture in your upbringing methods. It will also start harming your relationship as well. that the child that could be the reason that strengthen your relationship, that you have now a common presence of your essence, right? The child is, from the essence of both of you, you created a child. That could be something so inspiring, bring you together, make your love stronger. But that could be somehow, again, weakening your relationship if we are not paying attention to this issue of undermining each other and claiming that I know better. And the third one and the last one, there are more, but again, with my time, I try to just focus on top of three. According to studies, attention span of people, it's rarely remember more than 3 points at a time. So especially with TikTok, that's, I think, shrinked even further down. I doubt people even remember 3 points. Our brain and cognitive, style of thinking is always going through changes, especially right now. The way we think because of this pandemic, because of virtual setting, for sure, it went through a lot of transformation, and it will adapt to what's happening. So 3 point. The third issue that may rise after having children or being a parent and your relationship with children can affect your relationship as well, is what is known as power dynamic, which is similar to the second one, which the second one is more about, okay, I know better. That's more of a knowledge level, who knows better. But this one is about power, is about, it's what I say, it should be this way. That especially that happens after parenting and after having a child, because once you're alone, you don't notice that how much you are maybe greedy with power because there's only two of you. But once there's a third person in that equation, which is your child, then you see, okay, I want to be the one making the shots. I want to be the one making the decision. So these are the three issues we have to be careful. They may occur to our parenting. So if you don't have a child, these are possibilities. So let's just start the second part of our seminar was about what should we do with these conflicts. So now that we know they may happen, how can I manage it? How can I avoid it? That was the second part. So the first issue was the issue of dealing with a parent who is overinvested or obsessed with their child. Again, I'm not saying ignore your child, don't do anything for them, take care of your spouse. No. I'm not saying any of that. You as parents will have that infinite love to them all the time. But what happens is that if you don't pay enough attention to your spouse, for example, we have what is known as, the depressions that usually mothers go through after childbirth. That's, a bit common in some cases. That for women, the body goes through a significant amount of change through the pregnancy, and then you have the childbirth, which has its own, level of pressure, sacrifice, and then after that, child is born. Some mothers go through depression, so it means at that time they need support. They need your attention. They need you as a husband to take care of them. Yes, you have a child, but it's important to not ignore that my wife may go through something. Again, body went through a lot of change, a lot of pressure. There could be hormonal changes, adjustments. So it's important as a husband to know that, to understand that, as a father to get that. Even if you love your child, in order for your child to be nurtured well, if you want the best for your child, you need your husband and your wife in the picture. Otherwise, your child will be the one paying the price. So as a husband, if you ignore your wife, and your wife is not feeling well, the child will get the end of that. It will be receiving the impact of that, improper care. Or if you're, as a wife, you have a child, if the father, if your husband is not well, is going to impact your child's well-being. So for the sake of your child, so we're not saying that, okay, this is the same Freudian fight that, oh, the child is always fighting between the mother's attention and the father's. None of that nonsense and theories. I'm saying that if you want the best for your child, even for the sake of your child, you need to take care of your relationship, because that will give you the energy you need to do your job well as a parent. So if you smother your child, show the love of all the world that you can, that will not replace the love that they need from a father. And the other way around, if you buy them everything from the stores, all the toys, and what you think the love is as a father, is not going to replace the love that they need from their mother. And they will not be able to do their job and express love if they don't feel love themselves. How you can offer something that you don't have yourself? So the solution to this conflict is to give attention to your spouse after marriage. So set a reminder to yourself that, okay, yes, again, it takes some time, maybe a few weeks until the body recover. So that's fine. But after that, you have to communicate. You have to talk about, that you have a child, but how we're going to work on our own time as a couple. We need, a special time to ourselves. Children, again, they need that constant care and attention. But alhamdulillah, that's the benefit of having parents, right? Having relatives in your house, that they can help you somehow. Even if it's as simple as going to a walk with each other and talk to each other. Go for a coffee outside, right? Take a weekend trip, a road trip. These are things that will rejuvenate your relationship. Don't ignore it. You can do something about it. That didn't require expensive gifts or expensive gestures. Rather, all you have to do is proactively thinking that, okay, I need to acknowledge this person in my life. Her job was not just to deliver a child and that's it. His job was not to be a father, become a father, and that's it. Our relationship is going to continue. So I need to invest. How to do it? Talk to each other. Recognize what they need. Not everyone needs the same thing. Again, please, I've noticed sometimes in some seminars, when I give an example, people take it literally. And when I say go for a coffee, I said, I don't like coffee, Sheikh. So that's it. It doesn't work for me. Don't take don't take it literally. It's figuratively. When I say go for a coffee, means do an activity unrelated to your child. So you buying a stroller for your child is not activity outside that, right? When I say go for a coffee, go for a walk, it means something that is just for you two. And you can have your child in a stroller as you walk, but that it will bring the attention a bit to each other, acknowledging each other's needs. And it's important to listen to each other. Put aside some of the unnecessary ta'aruf, unnecessary, being shy or embarrassed to say things. You have to express yourself. This is what I want. And listen. I've noticed that sometimes even when one spouse, they say, this is what I want, the other side say, I know what you want, but you shouldn't. You have to understand what I go through. And it becomes this fight that, oh, if you need that, I need this. So the point is, okay, so because you need this, it doesn't mean that you have to ignore your end of the bargain. It will never work. So in Islam, let's say if somebody betrayed your trust, they lied to you. In Islam, our moral compass is that even if somebody lied to you, you don't lie to anyone. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, someone like Abu Sufyan, someone like the pagans, the idol worshippers of Mecca would trust Prophet that, Ya Rasulullah, they won't call him, of course, Rasulullah. They don't believe in him as a messenger of God. So it means they rejected him as a messenger of God, but they know that he's trustworthy. So they ask him, hold on to this for me. And Prophet would deliver, even to the people who rejected and turned their back. So he would still deliver his end. If somebody broke your trust, you're not going to break their trust. If somebody cheated, you're not going to cheat. That's not the, tit for tat mentality is a childish mentality. Quran talks about a simple concept. Yes, there is qisas, and you may say that's a totally different topic. That's about judicial system. We're talking about our personal decision-making, moral compass that we have. So that's the first thing. The challenge is that you may ignore your spouse. The solution is to set a time aside, acknowledge each other, try to communicate that how can I still navigate and notice that, okay, you are the one that I have this child with. Before this child, it was you. Before this child, it was you. So look at Imam Ali salam and Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha's life. Look at that relationship. That Rasulullah, when he entrusted Imam Ali salam with Fatima Zahra, you see that relationship is so deep. When Imam Ali buried the body of Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, one of the statements Imam Ali made by the grave of Fatima Zahra, remember, Imam Ali had children from Fatima Zahra, right? He had Imam Hassan. Remember, children, not regular children, children like Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Hazrat Zainab al-Kubra, salamullah alayha, Hazrat Kulthum alayhi salam. So these children, that each of them, they carry a flag for the universe, each of them. But when it comes to the moment that she is ill, Imam alayhi salam says, it was too difficult for me that people of Medina will not return my salam. And now, Fatima, you don't answer my salam? This is, of course, this is when Fatima Zahra been through all the oppression that she went through, right? But for Imam alayhi salam, it's so important that he wants to hear her voice, her presence in his life. And that's why he cried by the grave of Fatima Zahra. If you're looking for the life, and as an example, as a relationship between a couple that even after having children, that love still continued to grow stronger. It was not replaced by the love of children. The love of children added to their life to each other. Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima Zahra salamullah alayhi is an example. And when you hear some of these musibah and poetry about the musibah Fatima Zahra, just some of those statements which are narrated, what Imam Ali alayhi salam said is just, think about it, that who is saying these words? The commander of the faithful, Qasimun Nari wal Jannah. With all that, Ali alayhi salam said, Ya Fatima, what's the point of life after you? So that's number one, the issue that may rise and the solution. The second issue we mentioned was that who knows better? The issue of who knows better. The answer to that is very simple. No one knows everything. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah says that to teach Muslim the importance of consultation, mashura. The entire chapter was revealed, Surah to Shura. Shura, what is Shura? It's about consultation. It's about you asking others' opinion, consulting others. So the entire chapter was revealed on this subject. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Allah said, my command is that you have to ask others' opinion. Don't be self-centered, stubborn, only focus on your own opinion. Get the opinion of others. Collective wisdom. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to show people he is the absolute, alhamdulillah, we know about the status of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the man who's above all mankind. That it wasn't because of him Allah will not create the universe. That's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, I'm honored that I was a servant for Prophet. That's my honor. Ana abdun min abid Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what Imam Ali alayhi salam said. I'm honored that I was abd of Rasulullah, obedient to him. And this man, by the command of Allah, he started consulting Muslim. In the battle of Khandaq, also known as Battle of Ahzab, the whole chapter of Ahzab, the parties. On that battle, Prophet consulted Muslim. Okay, they are coming at us with everything they have. All the parties, all these tribes, they're united to defeat us. What should we do? Should we fight outside the city of Medina? Should we let them come in? What should we do? A different opinion came up until Salman al-Muhammadi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also known as Salman al-Farsi, he suggested to digging trenches and fill it with water to kind of slow down advancement of the enemy. And Rasulullah said, okay, we will do this. So remember, when you are thinking you know everything, that the Messenger of God consulted people and went with the suggestion of Salman al-Farsi. Making fair decisions, just decision, requires that you hear other people's opinion as well. You can't just say, it's only my way. Whatever they say is not, it makes no sense. In marriage, that's also true. So in parenting, you have to listen. You can come and see something and suddenly start to express your unhappiness with the situation. Because again, as I said, you don't know everything. It may work. Let's say if your wife gave a timeout to your child, then he is upset. And you say, no, this is wrong. You make him lose his confidence and all these things that you read somewhere, or some WhatsApp note, which I hope that's never a source you use in your parenting. First of all, don't rush into judgment. Listen to their reasoning. First of all, don't do it in front of your child. The worst thing you can do to your relationship and to your child's tarbiyah, nurturing and upbringing, is to undermine each other's authority in front of your child. That's the worst you can do. Because children, they notice this. They notice that who's undermining who, and they will try to take advantage of that. That's why if they want to do something that the father is not okay with, they go to the mother and say, is it okay, mom, if I do this, if I go here? And if they know the mother is against it, they go to father. You have to present a united front, that we are together as a father and mother. Whatever decision one make, the other has to stand by. If you want to discuss it, do it in private, not in front of your child. Try to come to a compromise. Try to come to a decision that both of you understand. And sometimes that means you accept your spouse's argument. It doesn't work that always has to be my way. But don't undermine each other in front of your child. That's the worst you can do. And no, again, we don't know all the answers. We're trying to do our best. And one more thing to keep in mind is that you have to have the whole picture. So when you see something happens, right? The worst thing I think we do is that you say, oh, you spoiled our child. My wife spoiled our child. To blame one parent for the failure, for the issue, for the trouble. It's not my fault. I always want our child to be the best, but my husband is the one who did this and our child turned out to be this. That's no united front. That's not taking the responsibility. It's your child, both of you. And another bad term I heard a lot, which we kind of get used to it, is we call our spouse and say, come and get your child. You're not going to say anything to your child, to your son, to your daughter. It's like that. It has nothing to do with me. Especially that happened when we were angry. A very, very bad mindset. That if it's good, is my child. If it's not good, is my wife's fault, is my husband's fault. We're not getting any credit to blame someone. Allah knows, Allah make the judgment who did what. But it's not going to help any side, not the child, not the parent, not you, if we blame one of the parents for the issue. The question is, what can we do right now? How we can prevent additional damage, additional harm. So that is about the second issue that we're facing. The issue of people who think that they know everything. And if you don't have the whole image, don't make a judgment. There is a story in Quran about Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. What is known, Prophet Dawood is known for his judgment, by the way. He was a great judge, a just and fair judge. And Allah says in Quran that we send angels to him when he was in his sanctuary. We sent angels in the form of man, in the form of human being. He didn't know. They came to him, and the first one introduced himself as they said, we are brothers. The two of us are brothers. And the first brother said, I only had one sheep, and my brother had 99 sheep. I had one, he had 99. And he took the only one I had. He took it away from me. Please help me. Please do justice. And the other brother was standing there. So remember, these are both angels, and this story is in Quran. The other brothers are standing there. So Dawood alayhi salam, without asking anything else, he blamed the second brother. Like, why you took this one sheep, why you're so greedy, you only had 99. So he made a judgment. And then those angels, they introduced themselves. They exposed themselves. They showed that we are angels. We were messengers from Allah. And basically kind of teaching Dawood alayhi salam a lesson. So he repented after that, why he rushed in judgment, why he made a ruling, a verdict without listening to the defend side. Maybe the other brother, he had 99 sheep, but maybe this brother owed him something. Maybe he sold it to him. Maybe he didn't even take it. Maybe it just accidentally, he didn't ask him. He didn't give him the chance to defend himself. So Quran says Dawood alayhi salam repented for that rush in judgment. As a parent, don't rush in judgment. If you suddenly come to the house, you were not inside the house, and you see something is happening, don't quickly say, oh, it's something wrong happening. You don't know the whole thing. Wait, be patient, talk. As I said, don't undermine each other's authority. Talk, and then find the right course of action. Don't let your emotion take the best of you. So that is the second one. The third one is the power dynamic in the household. That that happens in families, that who has the upper hand, who has the final say. That is the issue I've noticed, especially with our newest generation. Because in the society that we live in, individualism is being promoted from the very, very basic level. So the idea is that after Renaissance in Europe and after Industrial Revolution, you know that there was a church and state, and how church with corruption, with monopoly, and a lot of other issues kind of disappointed people from the role of religion in their lives. So what happened, the reaction to that was, we're going to put aside religion, put aside God and everything. We're going to focus on ourselves, human being, humanism, that a human being can take care of everything they need. You have to try, innovate, do this, and take care of it. The extreme version of that is that rejection of God, rejection of religion. And as you can see what's happening in France, to an extreme level, just kind of cherry picking whatever you don't like and make it forbidden, and calling it freedom, whatever it is. A lot of absurdity in it. But in the culture that a lot of us, we grew up, this individualism is very central. You take care of yourself. You should be happy. You can do this. You can conquer that. It's all about you. This I is very strong as we develop. And with that comes, is very difficult to convert that I statement to we statement. So that's why wife in the marriage wants to be the leader in everything. Husband wants to be a leader in everything. That is the issue. And that power dynamic doesn't work. So people start butting heads all the time. So basically they hit each other all the time. Why? Because she says my way, he says my way. There is no team. There is no collaboration. They're looking for obedience. I tell you to do it and you do it. Don't ask me why. If not, you're not a good wife. Islam says you have to listen to me. You're not a good husband. Islam says you have to do this too. And then they use hadith and tradition to use against each other. That's even making the situation worse. That's even worse. So the solution to that is simple. Know your responsibilities. And based on that, understand that there are matters that father has to play that role. You need a father figure. Even in psychology, they will tell you the importance of a father figure, the role that a father has. Don't try to take that away. And at the same time, you need the role of a mother in a family. Don't take that away either. Don't micromanage. Don't micromanage. Some of the matters mother knows best. Let her. If the father decided something, let him. Knowing that what is the scope of my responsibilities, where are the part that we are basically doing it together, but there's some elements that the father has to play that role. Some of the elements that mother has to play that role. But we can help each other in this matter. But if you focus on only, I have to be happy in this marriage, I'm important, that's the only one. There's always, unfortunately, two extreme versions. One extreme version is, it doesn't matter if I suffer, as long as my husband is happy, as long as my wife is happy, my children are happy, I'm going to suffer. That is wrong. Marriage, as I mentioned the first session, it's about comfort, providing tranquility, peace, mercy. So you cannot suffer all the time. That was not the intent of Allah from this union. That's one extreme version. I'm going to suffer. And Allah never told you to sit down and suffer and let, God forbid, be oppressed all the time. No, that's not what Allah says. On the other hand, we have people who said, I have to be happy no matter what. I'm going to demolish, destroy anything on my way who's standing on my way of happiness. Don't expect me to make sacrifice, to compromise. I was raised this way. I was raised a strong person. Both are extreme. The relationship is about is about a union coming together, working together, and knowing that you cannot do everything. As a husband, as a father, you cannot do everything. As a mother, you cannot do everything. You can maximize what you can do, but you will not be able to replace. That's why you see in divorce, unfortunately, children that are children of divorce, they have a lot of challenges, from mental, the rate of mental health issues among them, to the other challenges they face, to being always kind of dragged to two different sides, to two different poles, to be forced to choose between their parents. So no matter how healthy, how strong of a mother or a father you are, you need your spouse, you need the other parents in the picture. And know that sometimes you should let your husband make a decision. You should let your wife make a decision. That's the way life is. We can, inshallah, make it in another way, in another time, talk about more specific to define the roles. But at the get-go, it's important to note that it cannot be just one person making all the shots. The minimum is that you have to talk to each other. And knowing that if you undermine each other's authority is going to impact your own relationship, you're going to lose respect for one another. It's going to, again, if you undermine each other all the time, no matter how okay you're with it, it will lead to kind of resentment. It will create resentment. So don't undermine each other. And of course, it will harm the children as well, because they know that, okay, they can get away with certain things. There's a loophole that my parents are not getting along to begin with. So I can take advantage of that and undermine their authority to do something out of the scope of their parenthood and their tarbiyah. Okay, so I see the time. It's 7:35. I wanted to, inshallah, stick with the time. So in summary, I think from the 3 points that I was planning to talk about, we addressed 2 of them. Inshallah, I'll try to see if some of the questions were in that regard. I will answer those. But in summary, one of the challenges we are facing, or we could face as new parents, or as parents in general, is not paying enough attention to our spouse after becoming a parent, forgetting our role as a wife and husband, and becoming just a parent. That's dangerous in a sense that it will diminish your love for one another in the long run, and it leads to people losing that passion and love that they have for their spouse. Second one was again about the issue of undermining each other's role in parenting and claiming that you know everything, abandoning and ignoring consultation, talking to each other, being on the same page, presenting a united front. And the last one, the third point we mentioned, was the importance of power dynamic, how to not let individualism, extreme individualism, take the best, take the best of us. Rather, understanding that marriage is about that we are ultimately one. Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. Right? Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. And another ayah said, مِنْ نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. You were created from the one soul. So ultimately, you're one. So thinking of a family as a one entity, it will help us. And lastly, again, Brother Muhammad, inshallah, again, I don't know if you have any question. I can address some of that as well. If you let me know, do we have any questions, or I can go with the continuation?
As of right now, we have no questions, Mulana.
Okay. So I think the third one I wanted to talk about a bit was, I think based on the time, again, I don't want to go over time, is understanding how to prioritize some of the responsibilities we have. And in order to do that, we have to know that one of those priorities is our spirituality. That after we become a parent, we should not abandon our spiritual needs. So Ramadan is around the corner. And with that comes, there are challenges for parents to maintain their spirituality while being a parent, because they have so many responsibilities. And on top of that, you expect them to do mustahabbat or to learn more about religion. One thing is that don't forget, parenting itself is an act of worship. I want to be clear on that. When you are in month of Ramadan, let's say you can recite Dua Iftitah, you can recite, Dua Abu Hamza, all these mustahabbat, and in general, going to community, to the center, all these are good acts, but they're mustahabbat, they're recommended acts. But when you are doing something for your child, when you're doing something for your wife, when you're doing something for your husband, they consider act of worship. As Prophet, and is also narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Al-Kaddu ala ayalik al-mujahid fi sabilillah. The one who is struggling, the one who's striving to provide for their family is like someone who's fighting for the cause of Allah. So that is the reward of someone providing for their family. Another wise said, if a wife offers a cup of water to their spouse, Allah will reward them the thawab of Hajj Umrah, a pilgrimage thawab. So knowing that as you're doing something, you're not losing blessings. And again, we have to, but remember, balance it. So it says night of Qadr, and you want to spend part of the night in worship, right? As part of the night, I want to invest in my relationship with Quran. So as parents, we have to be that dynamic, as I said, the management that, okay, part of the night, I'm going to take care of children. You go on, because again, we need alone time. Even as parents, we need alone time. We can't expect them to be all the time with their children, with their spouse. Maybe they need 1 hour, 2 hour alone. Give them that time. Take that role and said, I will take care of children for the next 2 hours, for the next 3 hours. And then switch roles to give each other as opportunity to kind of somehow recharge and reinforce their spiritual strength through doing something that they're passionate about. As I said, it could be some dua, could be a program, could be a lecture, whatever it is that they are interested in. So I would say a tip that we can keep in mind is that, number one, remind ourselves that I'm not losing something, because sometimes parents may say, yes, people are telling us it's quarantine time, you have more time, go read this book, go read Quran. But quarantine for parents means more work, because now it means that I have to be a teacher, I have to be a tutor, I have to be a psychologist, I have to be so many things as parents. I have to do more in quarantine for some parents. And I acknowledge that, I agree with you. And if somebody even in lectures, they say read more and read more Quran, read more books. That's, I think, for people who have free time and available time. For you, as I said, it could be that what you do for your family itself is an act of worship. Don't think that they are in vain. Don't think if I put effort for my children, it's going to be pointless. It's as a spiritual investment, as well as, of course, it's helping your family. But on the top of that, it doesn't mean do it all the time. I'm going to serve my family and that will be the only form of worship I do. No, you need to take a break once in a while. Talk to your spouse about it and try to, as I said, switch roles. And that will help you to be able to rejuvenate and recharge yourself. But do it in a timely manner. So let's say if your children sleep at a certain time, try to maximize that time. Let's say if that is the time that you can sleep, try to sleep with them. I understand it's difficult, but knowing that how I can use my time more efficiently, because children have their own schedule and adults have their own schedule. But we will be able to efficiently work around that schedule, as long as, again, we're ready. We have that ability to adapt. And we can do it. Ask Allah, inshallah, for the tawfiq of that, and work together as a team to, inshallah, first take care of yourself. You need that health, right? Because if you're not healthy enough, how you can provide for your family? So that means, as a wife, take care of yourself, take care of your appearance. As a husband, take care of your appearance. Don't let that say, okay, I'm married, it's already done. The hard part is done. I'm not going to take care of myself. Nope. Your responsibility is to look good for your wife. There's good look for your husband. Don't forget that. That's the way. I think a lot of people put investment to look good for others. When it comes to family, it's a given. Oh, they accepted me for who I am. That's right. But when you take care of yourself, it means that you show importance, that you care about their impression of you, right? Yes, they love you no matter how you look. But in Islam, Allah always talks about the importance of zahir, the facade, the appearance, right? The outward, as well as the inward, and what is known as, your spirituality, your character, your manners. It's a balance of both. We cannot ignore it. Prophet would take care of himself, would spend a lot of money on perfume, wear them when he goes to visit his wife. Will look at the mirror before leaving the house. If he couldn't find a mirror, he would look at water to see his reflection. So these are examples that we can be inspired by. That we can take care of ourselves physically. There's not just a spiritual. I just talk about spiritual well-being. Some of one or two tips in that matter, but also take care of your physical health as well. You need a walk, go for a walk. Talk about it. You need, to exercise. You need to sleep well. These are things that you can manage. Yes, at early, as I said, month of the child's birth is difficult. Yes, a lot of people who are new parents will have loss of sleep, that's fine. That's normal. But that should not be the next few years of your life. That's not really the case. If you do the proper, inshallah, planning, you will be able to create a schedule for your child's sleep and for your own well-being as well. Just one thing I would say, don't wing it. Don't say whatever happens. I'm going to make decision as it comes. Plan of it ahead of time. And sometimes plan doesn't work as we plan. Again, things are not going according to plan. That's fine. That's normal. That's part of everything that you are having a schedule. Sometimes is not going to follow exactly through the schedule. So that is acceptable. As long as you go back to your original plan, as long as you don't drift away completely, that's acceptable. So inshallah, that's enough for our tonight's conversation. I would say these are inshallah enough content to think about, inshallah, to digest and think about how we can convert it to a plan in our own life, how to customize it based on our needs, based on the dynamics of our relationship, inshallah. Let me see, because I know we had some questions. I will. Okay, so some of the question again, I will start here. So what are some of your challenges as parents? I mentioned boyfriend, girlfriend. One of the issues, unfortunately, I think goes to creating so many barriers for marriage that people, even in their 20s, they cannot talk about marriage because they're not done with their grad school or medical school or law school or whatever, other institution they're attending, because ultimately what we're pushing them to is to go through that route of boyfriend and girlfriend. That's something sometimes happen through parents. Western influence, I would say influence in general of, let's call them, because again, when we talk about influence of the culture that we live in, there's the dominant culture. Let's call it trends that are existing. Sometimes they have bad influence, right, for sure. But how to balance that, again, it goes back to us, that how many times we skipped our parenting with letting our children be exposed to that influence through watching so many things online, and just, as long as occupying them. So that is something we can ask ourselves. And also living in a place that doesn't have proper community support, right? That, okay, if you're talking about influence, you need influence of good people to combat bad influence, to defeat it. So in order to do that, you need a good, healthy, vibrant community that they are providing support for our children. Influence of friends, same thing applies. Community. Who are we hanging out with as a family? Again, if you don't have relatives, I understand where a lot of people are immigrants and maybe they don't have a lot of relatives here. But again, that this is our part, that as parents, we have to find good friends in our communities and try to interact with them. So if I don't have relatives, at least I find a mu'min family that I can start, again, this is, of course, keeping in mind the quarantine and all that, but in normal circumstances, try to interact with them so our children will be able to interact with each other as well. So influence of friends, or even the importance of Islamic schools. That's one of the topics I've had. I didn't know there's this much debate about it, but I did a couple of panels about Islamic schools. I remember that there was some resistance against it, that, Islamic school are going to lead our children to be have a narrow understanding of society. It does not let them see the real world and all those, which again, I disagree with. But influence of friends, it goes back to, how much we are putting them in the right environment to end up finding the right kind of friends. Social media, yeah. I'm more worried about parents' social media now than children's social media, because I've noticed that some parents, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. Alhamdulillah, I don't know anyone in a Mu'min community, so don't take it from that Overall, again, I'm not on the majority of social media. I'm not even present, not because of, you know, uh, that is haram or anything. Rather, I don't have a time for it. I think those who are doing good work there, I admire their work and the social media, the good work they do, but I don't have a time for it. But yeah,
Well,
social media, it's a challenge for sure. And how to promote hijab in the right manner. Yeah,
that was a question I received as well. That
yeah. So I would say it's a challenge as a parent that you face, especially when you see, unfortunately, I see a good number of, good means, it's noticeable number of people removing their hijab, which is very unfortunate. And it's important to talk about, to these people, that this is not because they're, worst thing we can do to people who are in that stage is to go and start passing opinion on them. Oh, your iman is zaif or weak and you're not good. We don't know what they went through. The rate of Muslim being bullied in school, especially Muslim girls, is just, it's mind-boggling. It's we don't know what they're going through. Again, not justifying something, but to understand where they're coming from, how maybe it's a fear that they have. For some people, it's not fear; it's just a fashion choice. It's something they think that somehow fashion is a way moving forward. That's a lot for a lot of youngsters, Gen Zs, right? That they think that fashion is the way to make a lot of money. And a lot of hijabi influencers are also creating their own narrative there as well. So I would say how to promote hijab. Friends is important if you put them in the right environment. And secondly, would be to talk to them about what they're going through. If they're being bullied, if they've had an experience in public, and try to again stand for your rights. If they were bullied, don't say be strong. Go to school, talk about it, why this happened. If it's in other place, contact the authorities. If somebody's being abusive or attacking you, call the manager. Don't be a bystander. For your child, don't say, oh, just stay quiet and forgive. Nope. If somebody's coming after your daughter's hijab, your family's hijab, stand, know your rights and stand for it. This is nobody have a right to make you feel scared or fearful. That's shocking thing is, it's how ironic it is that some of these uh, Islamophobes, they say, yeah, we're against hijab because hijab is being forced to women, is being enforced on them, is not, they don't want to wear hijab, they force women to wear hijab. And then the same people who talk about force, they forcefully remove the hijab from uh, someone in public. What are you talking about? What are you promoting? So, yeah, okay. So, uh,
I had to add on to that question because I received a question. The question is for a youth that is just now getting married, and their person or the person that they're marrying, the woman would not want to wear the hijab, and the man has a different preference. How would they promote the hijab, and like, is it that he can force the hijab, or like, how would they go about that situation?
for sure, you cannot force the hijab. That's the answer of Marajis such as Ayatollah Sistani. You cannot force the hijab. But how you can promote it? So, was the example you mentioned was they're married, right? So the spouse,
Yeah, yeah.
did they know about the hijab before the marriage?
Um, they knew that it was a little bit discomfort, but they like the woman was still wearing it here and there, and then
Yeah, I think we have to talk about people thinking that marriage is going to solve issues. So if somebody's understanding of hijab, as you mentioned, even before marriage was not, oh, I'm not very comfortable with it. So it means that they did not have a positive attitude toward it. The chance of things are going sideways after marriage was high. So first, I would say it's very important to pay attention to things before marriage. So if you see somebody's a certain way, assume that they're going to stay that way. Don't think that marriage is going to solve it. I would say it's not even fair to say, well, you promised me you're going to change. That's not even fair. Why? They have to change because they want to change, right? That's something that because later on they're going to blame you. Oh, I didn't want it. I did it because of you. So that is not going to mean anything because you're not doing it for the right reasons to begin with. So for that case, I would say try to do it with proper akhlaq. Again, try to see if what is the reason behind it and try to address it. So let's say if where they live, she doesn't feel safe, maybe try to consider moving to a different place that is safer, that has a better community support. Uh, but overall, again, through good akhlaq and hopefully dialogue, you can go somewhere. Beside that, I don't know anything else that can be done after somebody already made their decision. We can work as a preventive measures ahead of time rather than when something happened is more of about, I would say, damage control. So if that is something they're dealing with, remember again prior to marriage that uh, if they made that condition or they made those kind of promises, maybe they can remind each other of those promises. But at the same time, more importantly is that they should wear hijab because they want to wear hijab because they understand the significance of it. So maybe again, if they have a theological issue with it, maybe and try to study about it yourself and try to answer those questions. So you can say why you have this question, why you think hijab is not required. So rather than that, okay, you present your proof or your reason, your argument, I present mine. Let's have a conversation rather than a debate. And then pray to Allah, inshallah, Allah guide all of us. Then hijab is one of the issues we're facing, unfortunately. I would say it's not the only one. For I think that's another cultural somehow cultural bias that girls and their hijab is so important. As long as they wear hijab, doesn't matter what else is happening. That's unfortunate. And boys, because again they're boys, it's okay if they end up having haram relationship. It's haram. Again, God forbid, if it's zina is zina. It doesn't matter who committed it. So, but this cultural bias is that there's more concern about women for some reason. Yes, women are the one that unfortunately are usually the victim of abuse. They're victim of, uh, could be somehow attempts against them. But it doesn't mean that the boys are immune to these issues. Boys are also, if we don't raise them well, they could be part of the problem, right? If they think and treat women in a wrong way, then we are responsible for the way we raise them. So, yeah, for that brother, all I can say, no, force is not an option. And specifically, somebody asked from the Maraji, from Atila Sistani, and so provided that. And the solutions usually follow through akhlaq, through, amr bil ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar. Again, from the proper approach, try to, inshallah, educate yourself, try to invite them toward good as well, through good akhlaq, inshallah. And if, again, there is some concern, try to address those concerns. As I said, it's that they don't feel safe, is that where they live is an issue, try to reconsider some of the matters.
Well, I have a additional question on top of that is because in spouse selection and sometimes whenever parents are choosing or like a person brings up a person to their parents with their spouse selection, is not having a hijab or a lady that does not have hijab but is having proper akhlaq, following the religion of Islam properly and is doing the inner hijab and containing modesty in that way, is that a reason, is the external hijab and a reason to say no to a person or a lady?
I would say, who is asking that question? Mother of this young man or the young man himself? If it's the young man himself, if hijab is important to you, if that is, you're religious, alhamdulillah, you have this proper understanding of Islam, that you know what hijab means. You know what is hijab to man, you know what is hijab is to woman. And in that sense, I would say the answer is clear. So if it's important to you, if it's part of your aqidah, find someone who will find to have that common ground to start a family with. If you're asking me as a mother, that should I consider a girl for my son who is not wearing hijab, I would ask you what kind of a son you have. If your son does not want to marry a hijabi, please don't involve a hijabi girl in your son's issues. I know that that is an approach which I'm very against. You know your son doesn't want hijab. They told you, you know it. For whatever reason, they are unfortunately in the wrong place, but they are where they are. And you're thinking, oh, let me somehow push him to marry a hijabi girl, and she's going to fix him. Please don't do that. She's not going to be the mother of your child. She's going to be the wife. So, for whatever reason, just don't expect your future daughter-in-law to cure or to fix or to whatever you call it, to guide your son. So if that's the issue. If they're looking for a non-hijabi, then again, try to guide your child, your son, that, okay, this is important. Try to do the proper tarbiyah. I think it's too late if they're that grown up and they already set their mind on something, but try to still tell them your advice as a parent. And if still the answer is the same, then finding, inshallah, a Muslim girl, again, then it goes to next levels, finding someone. Again, those terminologies, what was the terminology they used? That modesty and heart or something?
Yeah. Inner modesty.
It's like that, okay, those who are wearing a hijab, they're not having modesty and heart. So of course they do have it too. That has a bit of negative connotation. I don't like that statement. Those who are not wearing hijab, I'm not accusing them of anything. I know a lot of, I've met people in the Majalis Ahlul Bayt that they wear hijab once they come to masjid, or they wear hijab once they come to, programs, and they have a strong love for Ahlul Bayt, a strong love for, Ramadan and all that. So that is something admirable, but that something is missing as well. That's for me as well. I could have some good merits and some negative merits. The only difference is for the one who don't wear hijab, that is something everybody notices. For me, if I have a bad merit, probably people don't know, right? If I have bad akhlaq, if I don't control my tongue, if I am jealous, if I am greedy, nobody's gonna see it. It's not like hijab that people see it. So my flaws as a man could be some more concealed compared with that, but it does not make them less of a sin or less of an issue. It still is an issue. So it depends who's asking that question. I will give different answers to them. And inshallah, again, we're not accusing those who are not wearing hijab of, God forbid, labeling them with anything bad, but hijab is hijab. It's that they're committing one sin, and that is not wearing hijab. That's minimum, right? So as a man, I could have a pure heart and all that, but if I, let's say, decide to, I don't know, I decide to watch something haram, that is sin. I decide not to fast in Ramadan, it's a sin. No matter how of a pure heart I will have, but the sin is sin. So that is one thing. But just don't find someone for your daughter or your son that they don't want to live with, and thinking that this somehow miracle will work. Please don't do it. I strongly advise against it. Because what happened, that poor hijabi girl ending up living with this very different person. And I know cases that unfortunately the girl was forced to remove their hijab because of that, because they end up living with someone who's against hijab. And as a mother, that sin is on you. As a person who kind of pushed that marriage and you knew it, is on you, that person removed hijab, because I did this to them. I knew my son didn't want hijab, and I still did it. I still pushed it. So don't do it.
Thank you, Mulana, for that beautiful answer.
No, it's a bit kind of, it brings me a lot of memories which I'm not happy with. It's just what people are going through or even, a religious guy marrying someone who's not, and then he has to suffer as well, because she is behaving, she has her own way of life, and he's the one who's going to, go through that because of, he was lied to, or his family kind of pushed him in that. Either way is not going to end up well in most cases. Okay. Do you have any other question?
From other people, no. Do you have any questions in your platform?
I have one more. I think I addressed all of the one with some of the challenges as parent. There was one on how do you prioritize your responsibilities. One answer is by what my child needs, and I know it's best for them. So it's important, the needs of your child and the wants of your child. Your child wants something and they need something. So that is a good answer. You prioritize your responsibility based on the child's needs. That goes to the responsibility of a parent. What I know is best for them, again, to the best of your judgment, that's also good. But I would say, again, try to consult your spouse on them. And how to prioritize, the prioritization is that I'm not going to abandon my faith for it, right? So I'm still going to do wajib. So I'm not talking about mustahabbat. Wajib is that what is mandatory on you. Anything more than that is mustahab. So focus on that as a priority in your life. Then again, your husband or your wife is a priority, your child is priority. And then it comes to the details. The details, again, remember what's mandatory. Ask yourself, what is mandatory? And what is secondary or not important? Important goes to mandatory. I give you an example. If your child is crying with pain in their stomach, so my stomach hurts, and it's good for them to sit down and study. That's also another important thing. You prioritize your child's stomach ache and make sure they get the help they need. They take them to a doctor as soon as you can, because that is more important, right? Because that's mandatory, that they have to be healthy. So that is something you don't have to negotiate on the matters that are most important to them. So their physical health is important. Try to maintain it. Don't let anything jeopardize their health, their salamat, their well-being. And after that comes other matters, that after that, we're thinking about how to nurture them well. And to nurture them, you need to be a team. So prioritize your responsibilities. Let's say if I have to spend time with my husband or my wife, and I have to spend time with my child, if my child is crying, I can say, let my child cry. Sheikh Modarres said, spend time with your husband, spend time with your wife. Priority goes to what's urgent, right? So urgency matters. You go, as a husband, you understand that. As a wife, you understand that. The urgent matter has to be first. You have to prioritize that. Once you have that understanding, inshallah, it will help you to make better decisions, and it will be less of a confusion. What should I do and when should I do it? That was the last question I had.
And I don't see any other questions on my side either.
Khair, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, I think it was a good number of questions. If anything else, I'm here at your service. Otherwise, inshallah, looking forward to our future endeavors together. And Allah give us the tawfiq, inshallah, to be able to serve Mu'mineen of Mu'min Center into any other capacity, inshallah, in the future.
Allah, Ameen. I wanted to thank you, Mulana, so much from the bottom of my heart. Again, from the Islamic Center of Moment and this whole community that is watching, and other communities that might tune in and watch, and the members that loved your lectures, that reviewed it, took notes. This is amazing information for the youth and for anyone who has a family, looking to make a family. These relationships, these advice, this information is beautiful to know. And I for sure will come back and watch these lectures and watch it more, inshallah. But we wanted to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for this amazing seminar that you had with us for the past 5 weeks. It's been the best blessing, and it's been such a huge blessing to us. Inshallah, may may Allah grant you the sawab and the ajr to have this seminar with us during the great month of Shaban, and fulfill your du'as in the holy month of Ramadan. And may we continue to have these lectures with you, or have another seminar with you in Shawwal, inshallah, hopefully. And I will be here just to MC just for you.
No, thank you. Again, as I said, it's a tawfiq from Allah. I genuinely say it, to be able to share some of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, some of the teachings of the Quran, with a bit of, my understanding of, maybe a few years of experience. Ultimately, Allah knows best. Ultimately, Allah provides the ultimate guidance. I ask Him for that guidance for all of us, to show us the straight path, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, which, as we have, is Sirat al-Mustaqim is the path of Quran, path of the Prophet, and path of Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet. Inshallah, give us the tawfiq to follow that, to raise a family who are, inshallah, they are productive members of the society. They are mu'mins, that they can be leaders for the righteous, leaders for the mu'mineen as well. And also, great thanks to you, Brother Muhammad, as well as Brother Azhar, everyone else, and the technical team. And it was an honor. It was my
It was our honor, Maulana. It was our honor for sure.
And again, alhamdulillah, without any exaggeration, your energy and enthusiasm and engagement of asking even question was for sure helped me, alhamdulillah, to get the energy, I think, a bit back at the end, because once you do a lecture or a sermon or in a presentation, then at the end, a natural order of things is that things getting kind of slower and calming down. But once you start asking questions, alhamdulillah, you get the energy back. So I look forward, inshallah, to meet you, inshallah, after pandemic in person.
Inshallah.
If it's a tawfiq to meet you and any other virtual platform or ceremony or seminar, it's also a tawfiq from Allah. We ask Him for bringing khair, and whatever He brings, inshallah, is khair to our path.
Allah Ameen, Allah Ameen. I will personally be messaging you privately as well for some questions on times when my curiosity sparks.
Anytime. It would be an honor, anytime.
Thank you, Maulana. And so I'll give it back to you for the final dua.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Again, we're approaching the end of the month of Sha'ban, which is, I think it's a dua narrated from Imam Rida alayhi salam, as well as Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. That the dua is that, I will give you first a translation, that, Ya Allah, if you did not forgive me from what I missed from Sha'ban, please forgive me for what is in the remainder of Sha'ban. Allahumma in lam takun qad ghafarta lana fima madha min Sha'ban. Oh Allah, if you did not, again, forgive me from what I missed from Sha'ban, faghfir lana fima baqiya min. Then forgive us from in the remainder. So probably, I think for you, most likely Wednesday will be the first of Ramadan based on astronomical calculations. Either way, if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. So we are in the last 2-3 days of Sha'ban. May Allah, inshallah, grant us forgiveness. May Allah hasten in the return of Imam our time and Sahih Asr Zaman. Help us to be worthy Shia and Muhibbeen of the Imam of our time. Ajal Ta'ala Fajr Sharif. May Allah grant those who are ill and marid with quick shifa, remedy and healing and recovery. And may Allah bless the soul of all of our marhumeen, especially the marhumeen of those such as yourself and our brothers of volunteers at Mu'min Center who are providing these platforms, these opportunities for us to reconnect with our faith, with our values, and inshallah to empower our community and our youth, inshallah. With the salawat ala Muhammadan wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you so much again, Maulana. It was a pleasure and honor being your MC for these seminars. It was truly blessed, and I'm going to miss it every Sunday.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Inshallah, keep me in your du'as, Brother Muhammad.
Inshallah.
And looking forward to see you, inshallah, either online or in person in the future.
Inshallah, keeping your du'as too, Mulana. التماس الدعاء
محتاج الدعاء.
محتاج الدعاء. Mu'mineen, Mu'minat, I have a couple of announcements. So we are going to be having, as Mulana announced, that we're going to be having in-person programs. Our in-person programs start tomorrow, Monday. The check-in starts at 6:30, and then we'll be having Quran Halqa at 6:45, and then we're going to be starting the program with Quran, and then we'll have the speech, and then after the speech we'll have iftar. The iftar will be in the form of to-go. So we'll have a quick iftar, and then so we're going to do Salat al-Maghribain and then have a quick iftar. Please bring your prayer mats with you. Restroom access will be a little bit restrictive. And after the to-go iftar, we'll continue our program with Salat al-Isha and then Dua Iftita, inshallah. And that will be the tentative program for the holy month of Ramadan. Everyone is requested to attend. And please look forward to the updates that we will provide you, either WhatsApp or on the newsletter, email newsletter, or phone tree about any updates towards the programs. Iltimas al-Dua. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.